My future wife, just watch till the end. The first time I saw her, it wasn't love at first sight. It wasn't even interest. I was late for work, half awake, rushing through the subway station like always. And she was standing in the middle of the platform, just staring at her coffee like it had hurt her feelings. She didn't even look up when people brushed past her, didn't flinch when the train thundered in. She just stood there, lost in her own little world. And for some reason, that image stuck with me. I didn't speak to her that day, didn't say a word the next day either. But I noticed she was always there at the same time, same spot, same coffee cup in hand. Something about her felt familiar, even though I didn't know her. It was strange, like watching a movie and knowing the ending before the story even starts. One rainy morning, the platform was packed. Too many people, too many umbrellas. She was there again. But this time, someone bumped into her hard and her coffee went flying. It spilled all over her coat. People stared. No one moved. But I stepped in without thinking. Offered her my scarf. It was old, full of lint, but it was warm. She looked at me like she didn't expect kindness from strangers. Not in this city. Not from me. Thanks, she whispered. And for the first time, she smiled. That smile, that's when something shifted. From that day, it became a thing. Not official, not planned, but we talked small stuff. Weather, late trains, broken coffee machines. Then one day she wasn't there. And the day after that, she wasn't either. I won't lie, I felt something. Not panic, exactly, but something close. She didn't owe me anything. We were strangers who shared mornings. But still, I missed her. A week later, she came back. No explanation. Just stood beside me like she'd never been gone. I looked at her, ready to ask where she'd been. But she said, "Do you want to sit and have coffee with me instead of just standing here?" I nodded like it was nothing. But inside, I was already rewriting the rest of my week. We sat in this small cafe near the corner. It smelled like burnt toast and cinnamon. She told me little pieces of her life, not the deep stuff, but enough to make me want more. That coffee turned into lunch one day, lunch into late night texts, texts into random calls, and then silence again. She stopped replying. Not ghosting, not fully, just slower, distant. And I felt it before she said anything. That pullback, that wall. Finally she texted, "I'm not good at letting people in. You deserve someone who isn't scared all the time." It wasn't goodbye, but it felt like a warning. So I waited. Not because I was desperate, but because something inside me said this girl, this quiet, coffee-holding, guarded girl, she was worth waiting for. Days passed, then a week, and then she called, voice shaking. "Can I tell you something? But promise you won't run." What she said next, it wasn't what I expected, not even close. I didn't say anything right away. I could hear her breathing on the other end of the line, uneven, nervous. Then she said it. "I used to be married." Not what I expected, but it wasn't the worst thing I could have heard. Still, I stayed quiet, because she wasn't finished. "Not just married," she continued. "I was in something bad. Not just the relationship, the life around it, his friends, his world. I got out, but it's messy. And sometimes, I still feel like I'm dragging that mess behind me." She let the silence hang, like she was waiting for me to disappear. Like everyone else before me probably had. But I didn't hang up. I asked, "Are you safe now?" She said yes. But the way she said it sounded like a lie, wrapped in hope. We didn't talk long after that, but her voice stayed in my mind all night. I kept thinking, Is this what people mean when they say baggage? Like she's some problem I'd have to fix. But it didn't feel like that. It felt real and heavy, but not wrong. Next day, I showed up at the cafe again. Didn't text her, didn't call, just waited. She came, didn't speak at first, then sat down. Her eyes were red, like she hadn't slept. She said softly, "You don't have to do this. You don't owe me anything." I told her I wasn't here because I owed anything. I was here because I wanted to be. Like I had said something she'd been waiting a long time to hear. Told me about how her ex-husband had tried to control everything. Where she went, what she wore, who she talked to, how he'd smile in public but scream behind closed doors. She got out, finally, moved cities, changed jobs, but still lived with the fear that he'd find her. I listened, not just with my ears but my whole heart. She asked me, "Aren't you scared of getting caught in all of this?" And I told her the truth again. Yes, but not enough to walk away from you. From that day, she stopped hiding. Not completely, but enough to let me in. I learned her favorite movies, her laugh when she forgot to be careful, the way she cried during commercials but pretended she had allergies, and I started falling faster than I meant to. But then something happened. One evening, we were walking home, and across the street, a black car pulled up, tinted windows, no plates. She froze, dropped my hand. Her whole body went stiff. I looked at her and asked, "What is it?" She whispered, "That's him." And just like that, everything changed. She didn't move, not a single step. It was like her feet were cemented to the ground, and I could feel her hand shaking in mine. Even without seeing his face, she knew it was him. The black car idled. No one got out. No window rolled down. It just sat there, watching. I stepped in front of her, slowly blocking her view, and maybe trying to block whoever was watching from seeing her. She whispered again, "That's the kind of car he always drove." Same color, same way of creeping up. I could feel her panic rising, and I didn't want her to go back to that place. The fear, the silence, the hiding. So I said quietly, "Come with me." We walked, fast, but not too fast, and I kept looking over my shoulder. The car didn't follow. We ducked into a little bookstore around the corner. She sat down on a bench near the back, her hands gripping her knees like she was holding herself together. "Maybe it's not him," I offered. She looked up at me with tired eyes. "It doesn't matter," she said, "because every time something feels good, I get reminded that it can all go wrong again." That hit hard, not just because I felt helpless, but because for the first time, I realized this wasn't just about her past. It was about our future, and how fragile it was going to be if we didn't face the truth head on. I didn't know how to protect her from a man I'd never seen, but I could stand beside her. So I did. We spent hours in that bookstore, just sitting, reading things we didn't really see. She calmed down slowly, and before we left, I asked her something that had been sitting in my chest for a while. Would it help to report him or talk to someone? She shook her head. "I already did. Police didn't take me seriously. Said there wasn't enough threat. They don't help until something happens." That made me angry. But I didn't show it. Because she didn't need my rage. She needed my strength. So we walked home together. Carefully. Quietly, I stayed with her that night. She didn't ask me to. But she didn't say no either. She slept lightly, flinching every time headlights swept across the window. And I lay awake thinking, not just about her ex, but about us. What this meant for everything we were building. What it would take to make her feel safe. Not just for a moment, but for real. I knew she wasn't going to ask for anything. She had already learned not to expect help, not to trust that someone would stay, but I wasn't going anywhere. Still, I knew I had to do more than just say that. I had to prove it. The next morning, I left before she woke up, not because I wanted to run, but because I had something to do, something I didn't want her to know yet. I didn't text, didn't call. She'd probably be worried, but I had to take the risk. The first place I went was a local security store. Not one of those chain ones either. A small family-run spot where they actually talk to you like a human being. I asked the guy there, "What would you install if you wanted someone to feel safe and you didn't trust the cops to care?" He didn't ask many questions. He just nodded and said, "You got someone you care about." I nodded. Then he packed a box with cameras, door alarms, window sensors, a panic button, even a tracker for her car. I spent half my savings. Didn't blink once. That same afternoon, I called a friend who did freelance private security. Ex-military, no nonsense. I asked him straight up, if someone's been stalking someone I care about, can you find out if they're still doing it? He didn't need details. Just said, send me what you've got. Plate number. Any photos. I'll dig around. It felt weird, getting involved like this without her knowing. But I wasn't trying to take control of her life. I was trying to protect the part of it she had trusted me with. I went back to her place around 5 p.m. She opened the door before I could knock. Her face was tight, worried, maybe angry. "I didn't know where you went," she said. "I know I should have told you," I said softly, "but I had to do something first." She looked past me into the hall, then back at me. "I thought you'd leave," she whispered. "I thought maybe yesterday was too much." I stepped in, closed the door gently, and said yesterday wasn't too much. It was just honest. She looked like she wanted to cry, but she didn't. Instead, she asked, "So what did you do today?" I told her everything. I showed her the box of security stuff, told her about the guy watching her street for a few days, told her I wasn't doing this for her. I was doing it with her. If she didn't want it, I'd stop. If she felt it was too much, I'd pull back. But I wanted her to know that someone, finally, was willing to show up fully. She didn't say a word, just reached for my hand and held it tight. That night we installed everything together. It felt weird, almost like decorating a new home. Except instead of picking paint colors, we were screwing in panic buttons and testing cameras. But for the first time, she smiled. It was small, faint, but real. When we were done, she leaned against the kitchen counter and said, "Why are you doing all this? You barely know me." And I looked her in the eyes and said, "Because I see the way you still carry the weight, and I want to help you set it down." She didn't answer, but she didn't have to. That silence, it wasn't fear this time. It was trust, finally starting to bloom in a place where it had been burned before. And that meant more than any words she could have said.